I want to talk about Shedeur Sanders. I want to talk about Colorado and its offensive line. I want to take an honest and authentic view of what really is standing in the way of Colorado's offense being great. We could talk about the defense and their trials and tribulations on another day, but given the attention that is being paid to Shedeur Sanders going into this year, in which is a contract year for him, right? He's draft eligible, and there are many that believe he's a first-round draft pick, myself included. Second half of the draft right now, but could easily fall out of this or move up, depending on, frankly, what happens with this offensive line. Because we've got enough footage on him from Jackson State to know that Shedeur Sanders can sling it. We also have enough footage from him last year knowing he can sling it. It's about, can you do that at the next level, and what more can you show in the Big 12 this year? I'm going to start with the Pac-12 was tough last year. It was not as tough. It was not as tough as SEC or the Big 10, but it was certainly tougher than the Big 12. Okay? From Washington to Oregon, that alone made it a tougher place to play. And then SC being bad, still SC being not bad, right? 7-5. UCLA right there. They ended up having a pretty damn good season. Washington State fell off in a real way. Oregon State turned out to be tough. We can keep going down the line on this one, but I just wanted to say, if you believe that Colorado is going to a weaker league, I think you're wrong. I think through the middle, it's as tough as the Pac-12 was last year. And I think at the top, it's going to be tough for anybody to win, even as Utah, Oklahoma State, Kansas State might have a better opportunity to win it than Colorado, simply because they're a more balanced football team, given what we know about them. So there's an open question as to whether or not you would want to start Avery Johnson at quarterback or Shedeur Sanders, given what kind of offensive line he had to work with at Colorado and the kind of offensive line Avery Johnson has to work with at Kansas State. So let's start with the ceiling for Shedeur Sanders is the Heisman Memorial Trophy, period. He can win it. He can be the best player in all of college football, and that's not a nothing statement, right? There are a whole bunch of people playing college football right now that ain't got a chance in hell of winning the Heisman Trophy. I don't give a damn where they play or what position they play. There's only about 24 guys that we are really looking at that we think have the talent, let alone the team around them, to win the Heisman Trophy, and he is one of them. But the reason that we are taking a hard view, at least in this segment on the show of about Shedeur Sanders, is he and Jackson State were so much better than anybody else that they played throughout the SWAC and throughout the FCS that it was just difficult to get a good read on just how good that team was. And then you couple that with they showed out for the first 3-4 games of the season, and he threw for 1 billion yards, or so it felt. But the offense was also built around throwing the football, and particularly throwing the football short to try to facilitate, hey, read and react. Get the ball out as quickly as you can. Move the ball down the field before the defense gets an opportunity to set and get after you. That's what Sean Lewis was trying to do. I think that worked through the first half, but you could see the wear and tear all around the team that just didn't allow that to be sustainable. He eventually got relieved of his play calling duties, and Pat Shermer is the new offensive coordinator. We'll talk about how that probably influences the 2024 program here a little bit later. But Colorado brought in 11 new offensive linemen to help them not be the worst Power 4 conference offensive line in the league this year. They gave up 56 sacks. They got the starting quarterback's back broken. Got a new offensive line coach in Phil Lodeholt, who is near and dear to my heart because he was outstanding at Oklahoma as a left tackle. Even at one point was thinking about going to play for Gary Barnett at Colorado before Prime gave him the opportunity to be the offensive line at what I think is the most important and most difficult position coaching spot in the sport right now. You have to try to make the worst Power 4 offensive line into one of the best ones because you got one of the better quarterbacks behind them, and you need them to protect that man if you want an opportunity to win. And they just couldn't do that last year. It is astounding to say 56 sacks. It is yet more astounding to know that Shedeur Sanders was pressured 197 times last year. That means that he was pressured 37% of the time he dropped back. Only 2 QBs in FBS were pressured more. One of them was Purdue quarterback Hudson Card, who was pressured 39.4% of the time. And the other one was actually Ashton Daniels at Stanford, who despite being pressured 45.4% of the time was not pressured enough that he could find Alec Ironmanner for 294 yards on 13 catches, 3 TDs to beat Colorado in what was a thrilling overtime win for Stanford last year. The other thing to take into account about this offensive line is that they were terrible run blocking. Okay, so what does that have to do with being able to throw the ball? Well, if we don't expect you to run the ball, we get to send people after you as if you will not do it. And that's the drawback to running Sean Lewis's offense when you are only rushing for 827 yards, which is nothing. You're saying we're going to run the ball to give the quarterback a bit of a break here, or try to. But if that's not what you teach during practice, run blocking, A, they're not going to be good at it, and B, you are not making the defense think about what it is you might do next. They know you're going to drop back. They know you're going to try to get the ball out quickly, and we're going to call defenses that we think can stop that. We're certainly going to try to get into your quarterback's face. And they were succeeding in doing that. And the reason that is important for a player like Shedeur Sanders, who normally is very good at getting the ball out of the pocket. Last year, he held the ball at times when you'd like to see him throw the ball, but that's because the man running for his life. It changes your attitude back there. You're not just going to keep standing back there and getting Mark Bolgered as if you're running Mike Martz's offense so that you can complete passes. That's how you get concussed. Now, Mike Martz is running offenses that didn't much care about whether or not the quarterback got blasted. As long as he got the ball out, they were able to be the greatest show on turf. If you're Shedeur Sanders or any other quarterback, you're not necessarily built that way. You're not built to stand there and just let people waylay on you, so you're going to try to run away and make some off-platform throws. And everybody thinks of Patrick Mahomes when we do this, but Patrick Mahomes does a lot from the pocket too. You know, not for nothing, but they put a lot of money into protecting that man. So why wouldn't you put a lot of money into protecting Shedeur Sanders? Also means that every third pass that Shedeur Sanders threw, there was somebody in his face. It is really difficult to throw the football when you know that every third time you drop back, somebody is going to probably put their hands on you and trying to hurt you. That's just the nature of the game, and that's human nature. The more somebody gets hit, the less they want to get hit, and the more you adapt to trying to survive getting hit as opposed to standing in the pocket and completing passes, which is, you know, great if you want to go to the Coliseum and win a gladiatorial bout, but it ain't particularly conducive to playing winning football over the course of 12 games. Now, on top of that, we have to take into account there was a 3-week stretch where it just felt like all Shedeur Sanders was doing was getting hit. During the middle of the season, over 3 weeks, he got pressured 68 times. For perspective, Oregon quarterback Bo Nix, who threw for 1 billion yards and 1 billion TDs, it's more like 4,040, he got pressured all of 79 times for the entire season. Okay? They were very good at protecting that man, and that's why he ended up a guy we were talking about as a Heisman Trophy caliber quarterback. Now, adding Lode Holt to your offensive line, adding Jason Phillips to coach your wide receivers. Both guys got NFL experience. Robert Livingston, defensive coordinator, got NFL experience. Everybody got NFL experience. That's what everybody want to keep telling me about is we're trying to get people to the league. We're trying to get people that respect the NFL. Well, not necessarily, dog. Like, I want to win a national championship. I'm glad that every one of the kids want to get to the NFL, and I want them to get to the NFL. But on the way there, I would like to win championships. So I would like you to hire coaches that know how to win championships. If they won championships in the NFL, cool. Bet. Bring it. I'm good with that. But if they ain't won no championships, don't tell me about no NFL experience. Okay? You know, I know at least one personnel director that has 0 NFL experience that I will put up against any other NFL personnel director, period. His name is Zach Potter. He's created a dynasty called the Birmingham Stallions. Maybe you've heard of him. That dude has graduated from Nebraska in December. He ain't got no NFL experience, but he knows how to build winners. He's won championships. I don't give a damn about nobody having no NFL on their resume if you ain't won no championships. Okay? Now, what I think that Phil Lode Holt should get a lot of credit for is filling the new offensive line with 0 additions from the junior college ranks, because you ain't got to do that anymore, and going to get 5 guys that aren't freshmen, right, and have come from FBS programs. I also think that you're going to look at the tight ends, and while you were used to seeing a pass catcher there, you're going to see guys that are better in blocking, in pass protection. Savell Smalls is going to move over at 6'3", 260 from playing edge, playing tight end. Sam Hart, 6'5", 255, a blocking tight end from Ohio State, along with Dallin Hayden in the backfield. I think run plays are going to be a much bigger part of what Pat Shurmur does. Like, they're actually going to try to run the football effectively and make the defense respect your ability to move the ball 4 or 5 yards on the ground, perhaps so you could do play-action pass, which is another place where Shedeur was just bad, because they didn't run a lot of play-action pass that worked. I think he completed something like 21 play-action attempts, which is ridiculous, because if you are a quarterback, play action pass is your best friend because that means that people are thinking about running the football and the safeties are coming down to fit. So you get one-on-one on the outside. That just means you got to be accurate. And that is where Shedeur Sanders is an NFL first-round draft pick. He is super damn accurate. So if you give him time, he's going to put the ball in only the place where his wide receiver can catch it. And he's got this particularly great chemistry with Travis Hunter out there on the outside. And I think, you're going to see other guys come into the spot there that are going to probably be better wide receivers than Travis Hunter. Not shade, it's just they're elevating over there, and Travis Hunter goes both ways. I think getting away from the reactionary part of this and trying to dictate to the defense what you're going to do based on what you see is also going to help Shedeur Sanders, not just offensively, but mature into the kind of player that NFL scouts know what to evaluate with, because that's going to look similar to the kind of thing that you're going to see on Sundays as opposed to on Saturdays. Now, let's talk about these FBS offensive linemen that they brought in, because I don't think that many people have given a lot of time and air to talking about the offensive line with any sort of honesty and detail across shows, because offensive linemen just don't move the needle. You don't put offensive linemen in a headline for a show if you want people to watch it. They don't care. As a matter of fact, my first question for any diehard college football fan who claims to love a team is, who are the starting five on your offensive line? Because if you can't name them, I don't need to trust you. Okay. In some form, I believe that these are the guys that will be playing offensive line at Colorado. Okay. We got Savion Washington, who was a right tackle last year, one of the two dudes that are returning from last year's 2023 squad, who has something to prove. So when Travis Hunter was playing next to Shedeur, the eve before they dropped the early access of EA Sports College Football 25, talking about the Colorado offensive line last year's trash. They can't block for nothing. This dude was on that offensive line. And I am curious about how he feels about all of this and what his play will look like, because he's probably going to be back in that right tackle spot across from five-star true freshman Jordan Seaton on that left tackle spot, who's supposed to help elevate them. Now in the middle, we're going to have a fight. Okay, got Tyler Johnson transferring in from Houston. You got Justin Mayers transferring in from UTEP. You got Yakiri Walker transferring in from UConn. You got Khalil Benson transferring in from Indiana. And you got Phil Houston transferring in from FIU. None of those programs were particularly great last year. So that's number one. Number two is UConn went 3-9. Indiana went 3-9. UTEP went 3-9. FIU went 4-8. So you're getting starters from football teams that were as bad as you were last year. And people want to know why I'm not enthusiastic about the roster turnover for the second straight year at Colorado. And I had said you replaced a lot of like for like. You've replaced the same kind of player that you had last year. I think they developed into a 4-8 Colorado team. I don't think that they regressed into a 4-8 Colorado team with other guys that went 4-8 in conferences that we don't respect. UTEP does not play in a conference we respect. FIU does not play in a conference we respect. Indiana, bad in a conference that we respect. Houston, bad in a conference that we respect. And, of course, UConn didn't play in no conference because UConn doesn't really care about football. They only care about winning basketball championships. More power to them, but that's not a football school. Not anymore. Once was, not anymore. So, back to Shedeur, among FBS quarterbacks with at least 300 pass attempts, we're talking about a guy who was really accurate down the field, third in completion percentage when we're talking about balls that travel 30 yards or more. He completed 14 of 32 for, the balls that went that far. That's pretty damn good, right? You want to be 50-50 on your 50-50 balls. And 50-50 balls are things you throw downfield going, hey, you versus him. Can you go win? Can you go high point the ball? And I think you're going to get better at wide receiver. Not to say Xavier Weaver was bad or Jimmy Horn was bad, because I think they were pretty damn good themselves. But transfer, Will Shepard, I think 6'3", 205. He caught 150 balls across 2 years at Vanderbilt. He's the other guy at Vanderbilt that transferred out that people don't talk about. Everybody talks about London Humphrey going to Georgia because he went to Georgia. I think LeJonte Wester has an opportunity to be all Big 12 at as an all-purpose player. Like, he might actually be able to challenge Travis Hunter for the best all-purpose player on that team, which means best all-purpose player in the country, because LeJonte, at 5'11", 167, caught 108 passes at Florida Atlantic last year and was one of the better punt returners in the entire country. I think between Travis, Will, and LeJonte, you're going to have guys that are going to get themselves open quickly against press coverage, against man coverage, and allow for a guy like Shedeur Sanders to go out there and operate. But the thing that I will be watching for most, and the thing that you cannot accelerate about offensive line, is how quickly they gel and how quickly they can pick up the scheme together. It is the toughest group to coach because there is no easy fix to a bad offensive line. You have to have developed them off the field well, meaning in the weight room. You have to have them within weight, and you have to have them conditioned. And then you have to have them play a bunch together because it is a tool on a football team that you can't separate. Like, I can separate a wide receiver. I can separate running backs. I can separate every other position, even defensive tackles, defensive ends. A center has to work with guards. Guards have to work with tackles. You have to. Like, you can try to put different guards in because it's an athletic position. It's not one that's really built around technique. It's built around being brutally strong. But even that is difficult. And your center has to be so smart about what the quarterback knows and why the quarterback knows it. It's why you hear people talking so well about Jason Kelce and what he was allowing for Jalen Hurts to become for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's why at Oklahoma you'd hear people talk about Creed Humphrey being one of the most talented centers that they'd ever seen. And that's a dude that even had trouble snapping the ball from time to time, goes to Kansas City, turns into a Super Bowl champ. I want to know that they have that at Colorado before we start talking about Colorado winning anything. I'm not at all certain that they are going to have that in the offensive line. Do I think they're going to be better? I hope so. I hope you don't give up 56 sacks in 2024. And I hope that Shedeur Sanders gets an opportunity to show the NFL what they want to see, which is in something akin to an NFL offense, which Pat Shurmur will won, which Sean Lewis did not. Can you get that back? Oh, I almost was remiss on this one. Tyler Brown is eligible this year, and he was All-American at Jackson State. He had to sit out last year because of the NCAA transfer rule says you can't transfer twice and play immediately, so he sat out a year. So you'll get him back, right? And I think that's also going to elevate your offensive line. It's just I always think of Tyler Brown as having been there because I've been talking at some point about Jackson State for the better part of 4 years now. So that's where I'm at with this. If you think that Colorado's going to win more than 6 games, let me know in the comments below.